And as the Emir of Qatar on Tuesday last received the King Abdullah II, the monarch of Jordan, during an official visit. He also on Thursday last received the President of Egypt, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, in an official visit. He also received on the same day in his Lusail office Hakan Fidan, the Foreign Minister of Turkey. His Royal Highness received a number of communications over the past days, including one from the President of the United Arab Emirates, the monarch of Kingdom of Bahrain, and also King Abdullah II, the monarch of Jordan. King Philip VI, the monarch of, as well as Steimer, the Minister of the UK, President Macron of France, and the Prime Minister of India. These communications were centered on discussions on the developments within the region and the gravity of continued escalation. They also expressed solidarity with the state of Qatar in the recent attacks on our territories. We recall and honor the memory of the fallen martyrs, the personnel of our armed forces, and the personnel of the joint forces from Turkey who fell in the line of duty in a helicopter crash, an epitome of sacrifice for the sake and the cause of the homeland. This is an opportunity also to honor the memory and recall that there are thousands of Qatari personnel, armed forces personnel and security personnel, together with their brothers from the Turkish apparatuses, as well as others who are taking part in the joint efforts in defense of Qatar, who are standing in harm's way and putting their lives in jeopardy simply to protect and defend the citizens and the residents of Qatar. This incident in a joint mission where the Qatari blood was mixed with the Turkish emphasizes that it is not only a partnership between two countries, it is a reflection of the depth of partnership in humanity and religion between both the countries and the peoples. As the Turkish blood mixed with the Qataris in this incident is a translation of our shared future. We honor the memory of the fallen martyrs, and we also reiterate that the state of Qatar, through the armed forces and security personnel, are working 24/7 to ensure and guarantee the safety and security of all living on our homelands. And on behalf of all of you, we express our gratitude to the sacrifices made by the fallen martyrs who fell in the line of duty, and we reiterate that all those who are residing on the home soil of Qatar have demonstrated all forms of love, support, and solidarity, and doing all what it is needed in defense of our home soil. And as you may know, on Saturday last at 10:42 at night, while a routine tour, an A3W9 helicopter suffered a malfunction whereby it fell in the territorial water, and all on board fell as martyrs. 4 from the Qatari Armed Forces, Captain Pilot Tayyar bin Salim Al-Murri, the fallen martyr Captain Pilot Saeed bin Smeikh, Surgeon Fahd bin Hadi Al-Khayarin, and Corporal Muhammad bin Maher Muhammad, and the fallen martyr Air Defense Major Tashkin from the Turkish Qatari Joint Forces, in addition to civil operators Suleiman Kahraman and Ismail Anajan from our brotherly state of Turkey. Immediately following the incident, the concerned parties started search and rescue operations, including the naval search and rescue units of the Naval and Border Coast Guards, as well as the internal security forces, and in the following morning, the search and rescue operations were completed, where all the bodies were recovered. The funeral processions were made, and the funeral prayers were offered in presence of His Royal Highness the Emir of Qatar. It is a moment of solidarity. It is also expressive of the human cost of wars, despite the fact that they fail in a routine mission. It is an epitome of the sacrifice made by them, and we pray to God Almighty to accept them in His mercy. The Foreign Minister and Prime Minister received a number of telephone calls from Faisal bin Farhan, the Foreign Minister of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Sheikh Jarrah bin Jabir Al Sabah, the Foreign Minister of the Brotherly State of Kuwait, and Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Foreign Minister of the United Arab Emirates, and Badr Abdul Ati, the Foreign Minister of Egypt, in addition to a phone call from Hakan Fidan, the Foreign Minister of Turkey. During these communications, they offered condolences to the State of Qatar for the fall of the armed forces personnel. His Excellency also on Thursday last took part in the consultative ministerial meeting held in Riyadh with the participation of Saudi Arabia, Azerbaijan, Jordan, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Pakistan, and Turkey, as well as Syria, Kuwait, Lebanon, and the Arab Republic of Egypt. During the meeting, all the attendees reiterated condemnation of the Iranian attacks by missiles and drones on the regional countries in a flagrant violation of the international law, and called for immediate and swift compliance with the UN resolutions and international law. Dr. Mariam Ben Ali Al-Misnad, the State Minister for International Cooperation, on Tuesday last had a telephone call with Ms. Hanina Said, the Social Affairs Minister of Lebanon. During the call, they demonstrated the humanitarian affairs in Lebanon amid the massive displacement of thousands of Lebanese under the current situation, in addition to a number of other humanitarian affairs. That's all what we have for this week's briefing, and open the floor to questions. Al Jazeera Television, we start by offering condolences on the fallen martyrs. The United States announced that there are talks taking place between the United States and Iran, while Iran denies. You as a mediator, what is your position, and especially in the coming days where the issue of the administration of the Strait of Hormuz affairs? To begin with, the position of Qatar from day one has been clear, putting an end to this war through diplomatic means. This is our position throughout any dispute worldwide. The faster the diplomacy is, the more lives and losses we save. That's why we support and uphold all diplomacy efforts, be it in terms of communication or through official channels, and all what is needed in order to bring a diplomatic end to this war. Here, I reiterate that there is no direct effort, mediation effort made by Qatar. Our efforts are totally centered on defending our homeland and addressing the losses and damage suffered as a result of the continued attacks on the state of Qatar. And as you may have heard shortly, we are in communication with regional and other international players Also, the international organizations hoping to bring an end to this war and also bring a halt to the hostilities against the state of Qatar and other regional countries. We remain vigilant. We remain at alert in terms of the military operations and their social, political, and economic repercussions. Here, it is very important to emphasize that it is clear, as expressed by the Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, in the press conference with his Turkish counterpart, there are certain beneficiaries from circulating false rumors. This cannot be interpreted but in two ways. First is to drive a wedge between our countries and to paint a false picture that there are disputes among ourselves with the aim of driving a wedge between the regional countries, and also to undermine any efforts aiming at reaching a ceasefire. I believe you are all expert journalists and you can easily interpret what is really meant by these false rumors and who is the true beneficiary.
That you have not been involved in any of the conversations that President Trump spoke about in terms of the Iran war. But can you tell me what pressure have you applied and what appeals have you made to President Trump to step back from his threat to attack Iranian power plants?
Thank you. First of all, I don't think pressure is the right word between strategic allies. We work very closely with the U.S. administration and with President Trump on finding an end to the current escalations. We have conveyed very clearly that the attacks on Qatar have resulted in catastrophic results on the energy sector and Qatar's economy. You know, as His Excellency the Minister for Energy in Qatar has said that as a result of the attack on Ras Laffan, there was a reduction of 17% when it comes to our ability to export LNG, and that the cost is going to be up forward of $20 billion in US dollars in annual income, and with a time span of about 5 years to solve everything that has happened. This was communicated very clearly to all our partners around the world, including the United States, and I think, of course, there is a very clear impact when such damage happens to the energy sector in the region as a whole. We've said from day one, and we've condemned any attack on energy infrastructure in the region as a very dangerous precedent that would have very dangerous repercussions. We have seen the repercussions in Qatar firsthand, and we welcome that there was a very clear stay on attacks on energy facilities, and we hope that that materializes and continues. And we don't believe that there is any justification for attacking civilian infrastructure. These civilian infrastructures, wherever they are the wealth of the people, regardless of the political implications of that wealth, and therefore they should always be protected from any attack. Please.
Do you believe that President Trump has correctly characterized the nature of the talks that he says Washington is having with Tehran?
Well, you have to ask those who are involved in the talks. As I stated very clearly a minute ago, we are not involved in these talks. Our concern right now and focus is on protecting our countries and on diplomatic calls that make sure that happens. Please. Alaikum salam.
Here. Very good to see you again, Dr. Majed. Can Qatar and the Gulf states ever have normal relations again with the Islamic Republic of Iran? Frank Adam in BBC.
Thank you. First of all, I think we've said this countless times. Iran has been here for millennia. The people in this region have been here for millennia. Nobody's going anywhere. Total annihilation is not an option. No one peoples or country will disappear from existence by the wish or whim of any political actor. We will live next to each other. We will be neighbors for the future of humankind, and we have to find ways of living next to each other. This is a very difficult moment. Our country has been attacked. Our sovereignty has been attacked. We have seen the effects on our economy, on daily lives of people living here, and we don't take it lightly, and we don't see the attacks on our sovereignty as something that we can live with. Now, that said, obviously living next to 90 million people in Iran, a proud people that we have shared the Gulf with for, as I said, millennia, will continue, and we will have to find a way past this. This is a very difficult moment, but we will find our way out of it. And I have to say here that our message was always to Iran, the brotherly relationship, the neighborly relationship between our peoples should take paramount over any other political consideration. The fact that they decided to attack our country like this does not show good neighborly relations or the essence of that brotherly relationship, but it is something that we don't find any alternative to in our region.
If I could just ask, is that a view shared by all the Gulf states? Is there unity amongst the GCC?
Of course, I don't speak on behalf of every another country in the Gulf, but I think the official statements are very clear on this. You have to remember that before this war and before the 12-day war, there was a rapprochement between all the Gulf countries and Iran that took place actually here in Doha when the Iranian president met with the foreign ministers of the Gulf. We in the Gulf believe in peace with Iran. We in the Gulf believe in coexistence. We believed in reaching out to Iran. It's now up to the Iranians post this war, of course, to decide how they are going to rebuild the trust that was lost due to their attacks on our sovereignty.
Dr. Ansari, Raf Sanchez from NBC News, thank you for doing this briefing. President Trump has said talks with Iran are going perfectly. He says that there are major points of agreement. Based on what you know about the negotiations, do you share his optimism that there could be a negotiated ceasefire sometime in the near future?
Now, let me reiterate, Qatar is not involved in these talks. Our views about any talks, if they exist, are consistent with our very principled position that all conflicts will end on the negotiation table, and we support all of these efforts. I'm not privy to the details of the current negotiations, but we stand ready to help, of course, if there is any role for Qatar. But right now, our concern is in supporting these efforts and stopping the attacks on our country.
Follow up. When President Trump threatens escalation against Iran, the Iranians respond by threatening to retaliate against Gulf states like Qatar. Do you feel like the president is adequately taking the danger that the Gulf allies face into account when he makes these threats of escalation?
We are in constant communication with the administration, conveying to them exactly what the Iranian attacks are doing to our countries. We are grateful for the partnership that is allowing us to help protect our region against these attacks, and I will leave it at that. Anwar? Anwar?
Assalamu alaikum.
To begin with, I offer condolences for the fallen martyrs. And a question. I understand that Qatar is not involved in the ongoing mediation efforts. After this war, when dust settles, the dire economic consequences suffered. Will Qatar be part of any future agreement in order to maintain security within the region? Thank you for this question. It is a very important question. As a matter of fact, the most important outcome of this war is that the regional defense and security ecosystem has been shattered. Many of the established principles have been undermined, which means many of the Gulf countries who are, as you know, currently and closely cooperating and coordinating to maintain their collective security. This ecosystem requires total reconsideration and reassessment once dust settles. And as you know, the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, on many opportunities, and since the Israeli attacks against Qatar last summer, many measures have been taken in order to ensure joint defensive actions. And this has been further re-emphasized in this war. As you mentioned, yes, we need to pause, reconsider, and reassess the situation. The joint GCC defense ecosystem has proven effective. We need a collective and uniform position, not only within the GCC countries, but as you may have seen in the meeting held in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, many other countries should be brought on board in order to have total coordination, regional and beyond, on how to address these threats. This threat is not only against humans, but it is also against territories, economies, which requires beyond trans-international and beyond borders cooperation. Any repercussions should consider the interest of all the countries, not only those affected by the war, but all others. That's why we should reconsider and reassess the comprehensive defense mechanism. Al-Sharq newspaper. There are reports that the United States is prepared to deploy troops in the Middle East, which means a land invasion. What's your position? I do not concur with the conclusion you have arrived at. Deployment of forces is a natural measure in times of war. However, this question should be addressed to the United States Army. There are no clear statements or any tangible movements on the ground. Generally speaking, we stated that the continued escalation will have dire repercussions, and we have seen the outcomes here in Qatar, and that's why we continue to push for diplomatic solutions. Today, an announcement made by Qatar that many domestic institutions, including schools, are to resume normal business hours. This means an detente or an end of war. The decision made by the state authorities to resume on-site operations has a lot to do with the security conditions within the state of Qatar, as we have succeeded in fending off 90% of the missile attacks, as we managed to foil all these attacks. And as you know, the armed forces commanders as well as the security leaders have taken this decision. At the same time, we continue to urge the public to abide by the security directives, and we urge all citizens and residents who are to report to office today to continue to abide by these instructions and to ensure that we have access to all the relevant warnings. Our life must go on, and the war might drag on, which requires us to go back to our normal life. And I believe the decisions made was based on clear strategic and security assessment. We have all confidence in our security system. Again, we should all remain vigilant and alert. The danger has not passed away, and we pray to God Almighty to save us all.
There's been multiple attacks across the region on energy facilities, but no one else has been able to get the response from the US president, where he announced that Israel will not attack Iran's energy facilities after the attack on Ras Laffan. Can you elaborate on what was the discussion had between Doha and Washington in the wake of that, and if Qatar played a role in getting that guarantee?
Thank you, Sam. I think for all of us in the region, there was a very clear message communicated to the U.S. administration on the dangers of a reciprocal attacks on the energy sectors. I think the U.S. President and his team understand very clearly the impact of this has on the international energy markets. And I would say that the attack on Qatar was severe, and the results, as I described earlier on the international energy markets, are going to be quite extensive. But I think it's a joint effort by everybody in the region to convey these messages, and I don't think the U.S. administration is unaware of the effects of this on international economy.
And just to follow on Iran, can you elaborate on the level of communication that you have with Iran? Because there has been a lull in attacks on Qatar, there's speculation there might be some understanding with Iran. Is that the case, and is Qatar continuing to, at any level, talk to Iran?
The only communication we have had with the Iranians was the call between His Excellency the Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Iran. We maintain regional communication with Iran, as you have seen, with various interlocutors that we are working with, but I don't think there is anything to report on when it comes to current communications with Iran. Buthayna?
You have stated that Qatar is not involved in the current mediation efforts. However, you have very intense communication with Kuwait, Egypt, UAE, and Bahrain. What are these communications centered on? Another question. Today is a special day in Qatar as life is gradually coming back to normal. More important is to ask about the resumption of energy production as a gas producer, leading gas producer in the world. At the current defining moment, we have close coordination with all our brothers and friends within the region. These communications have not come to a stop from day one, and they have been centered on three major issues: halting all these attacks, coordinating collective and joint defensive measures, and also the total end of the crisis through diplomacy, and above all, concerted and uniform coordinated position with respect to all other threats. These communications are normal amid the current crisis. It is also expressive of the regional harmony and unity between the state of Qatar and others friendly and neighboring states, which is a source of pride for us. Answering the second part of the question, in terms of energy, I refer you to the energy officials. The decision was made based on technical assessment, and that's why the resumption of these production capacity operations will be also based on similar assessments. Al-Arabi TV. I would like to ask the talks President Trump spoke about will be limited to Tel Aviv, Tehran, and Washington, or the other Gulf countries who were part of the attacks will be involved. Again, I reiterate that Qatar is not involved in the ongoing talks. We are not a party to these talks. Again, I reiterate that here in the state of Qatar, and the same as our partner in the region, we had a uniform position that the regional countries, namely those affected by the war, must have a key role in the defense joint ecosystem. This war has proven that defense system is not 100% effective when it comes to deterrence. That's why coordination between all the regional players is needed. Our regional position is clear, be it in terms of the GCC states or other regional partners who have been also affected by the war. There must be a regional solution, and this regional solution must be endorsed and supported globally. And that's what we're working to achieve. Any diplomatic efforts are commended, and any diplomatic means are endorsed. The Spanish radio. Is the international community failing to contain the crisis, paving the way for Qatar to take more decisive and more independent regional initiatives? And as life is starting to gradually return in Qatar, are you initiating effective diplomatic channels to avoid future escalation? Speaking of initiatives, we endorse and support any diplomatic efforts aiming at ending in the crisis, and I reiterate, we are not involved in any direct mediation talks as we speak. The second part of your question, the state of Qatar has always been well known for their massive efforts in mediation and dispute resolution. This role is not new. Even in the current circumstances, we still continue our mediation efforts on other international disputes. Our efforts still are going at full speed, and what the current situation cannot hinder our mediation efforts any other part in the world.
Hi, thank you very much. Elisa Clash from French Television, TF1 LCI. Would Qatar retaliate if Iran hits your water industries, because it would endanger the whole population for you?
Thank you. First of all, we reserve the right to take the appropriate action to respond to any such attacks on our vital infrastructure. That said, I'm not willing right now to commit to any kind of retaliation. This is based on the operational and situational awareness at the time, and it has to do with the type of attack and the way it is. But we want to make it very clear that attacks on the livelihood of Qataris, attacks on the essential and very vital infrastructure is something that we do not see as an option for any of the countries in the region. And I don't think Qatar, from a principled point of view, is going to attack at any point vital infrastructure of other countries, but we reserve the right to retaliate against any attacks on our countries. Callum.
Hi, Dr. Majed camping from AFP. As far as I can tell, we haven't had an alert or an interception since Thursday now.
Don't jinx it, Alex.
Yeah. Thank God. Is there a reason that you can point to that this...
Well, you ask the people who are sending the missiles, not the people who are receiving them. Please.
Adil Halim, DawnNews. Just to piggyback on Callum's question, does that mean that there have been no imminent attack attempts, or simply that the alert threshold hasn't been met?
We have not registered any attacks that merited issuing any alerts in the last couple of days, which obviously is a positive thing, and alhamdulillah, anyway, thank God that this is the case. But that doesn't mean that we have the luxury of not being vigilant anymore. We are still in the eye of the storm, and our men and women in uniform, in the armed forces, are keeping a very close eye to make sure that there are no attacks. We've seen, of course, attacks happening in the region very close to Qatar. We've seen, drones coming in and out of airspace. So we remain vigilant, but there has not been any reason to issue any alerts in the past couple of days.
And with ongoing risks to regional infrastructure, what specific measures are in place to protect Qatar's energy and water supplies, and are evacuation and contingency plans ready if the situation escalates?
I think you need the whole report from our NCC to tell you exactly the answer to that question, but I can assure you that we have taken all possible precautions and planned for every possible contingency with very clear scenarios on possible escalation. But we are confident in our security apparatus right now and our response to the crisis. The plans are being implemented fully, and we have not seen any breakdown within the scenarios that were built for such contingency. Andrew?
Thank you, Dr. Majed. Andrew Mills from Reuters. The decision to return to on-site work and classes at university and schools next week. You talked about this before. Is this on the basis of a reduction of incoming threats, or do those threats still exist, and Qatar is now more confident in its ability to defend against incoming threats?
I have the feeling I need to have somebody from the Planning Council with me here, and the Cabinet, the Council of Ministers administration, because this is a very administrational decision that was taken on a myriad of parameters, one of which was the need to return to normality if this war rages on without end. Obviously, we can't just close shop and wait for the war to end indefinitely. But that said, we have monitored the security situation, we have monitored the military response to the attacks on our country, and we have deemed it safe, the government has deemed it safe to people to go back to work. I mean, most of you I know you guys have been working 24/7 in the past couple of weeks, but those of you who were at home were probably enjoying themselves, going out to cafes and restaurants and other places without incident. So we believe that merits you going back to work for your country, along with doing all of that. But I can confirm that the decision was not taken lightly. It was taken according to security parameters, according to economic parameters, but also with complete confidence that we are all safe here at our place of work.
شكرا دكتور مجيد. محمد مزرعي from France Television.
France TV.
Iranian strikes are continuing across the region. Qatar has not been targeted since last Thursday. My question is just how do you explain this? Do you believe Qatar is being deliberately spared, or why? Why there is no? If there is some discussion toward Qatar and Iranian, because until like a few minutes ago, United Arab Emirates, they're still targeting from missiles and drones, Saudi Arabia as well. And in Qatar, there is like maybe just few days without any missiles, any sirens, like a normal life. So how
You know, last time I stood here was after a period of calm, and the minute I got off the podium, we had a couple of attacks. I'm not comfortable with this line of questioning, because if an attack happens, then people will start making correlations about my press briefing and the attacks on the country. But let me say it very clearly. This is a question to be asked of those who decided to attack our countries unprovocatively. The attacks on the region persists. We remain vigilant. We are not out of the eye of the storm. Well, I can't explain to you why these couple of days were without incident, but what I can tell you is that we welcome any reduction of escalation, generally speaking, especially against our country, but we don't have any specific reason to state for it. Osama?
Just to follow up on the regional conference that was held in Riyadh, there was a very contrast in tone on what we heard from Riyadh, especially after the attacks that happened while that conference was happening, and from the foreign minister of Qatar a day after when Hakan Fidan was here. There was a sense that there could be a retaliatory response from the region if this infrastructure threat continues to be there, and if Iran continues to target infrastructure. Is that a possibility? There is some regional directions towards it, especially from the UAE, Bahrain. There are indications they might be willing. What is Qatar's stance in all of this, and can it be dragged into any offensive action against Iran?
You know, throughout our history, we have not been aggressors in any conflict against any of our neighbors or anywhere beyond that. Our defensive posture is very clear. Our country is being attacked. It suffered more than 200 missile attacks on our country's countless drones with losses that you are aware of. And therefore, we reserve the right to retaliate in a manner that is respectful of international law, but is also cognizant of the fact that we will live in this region indefinitely. And therefore, we have to work together towards regional peace, not towards regional escalation. I think the decision for retaliation is to be taken according to the situational assessment that is coming from our military and the decisions by our leaders. No such decision has been taken yet, but we are taking every possible precaution, every possible measure in our defensive posture to make sure that these attacks never succeed. And we have seen, as I said, more than 90% of the attacks thwarted through the brave work of our men and women in uniform. Okay.
Excuse me for asking again a brief question following a request from the Iranian military attaché to leave the state of Qatar. What are the exact details? And have you recalled the Iranian ambassador to Qatar? As part of addressing or dealing with the belligerent attack on the resources of the Qatari people in Ras Laffan, the state of Qatar took a number of diplomatic measures, namely requesting or demanding the military attaché to leave the home soil of Qatar. This was through an official letter handed over to the Iranian ambassador to Qatar to leave within the designated period of time. This was through diplomatic channels, and it was part of our response to the belligerent attack on the home soil.
Did you make the point to Washington that, this region, and Qatar in particular, would suffer enormous economic consequences potentially because of the conflict?
I mean, I think anybody who knows anything about international economy and international geopolitics doesn't need anybody reminding them of the effects of a war in the waters of the Gulf and what that would, what implications that would have on international energy markets and international economy. But we have stated that very clearly on the record and off the record many times since the escalations in the region have begun. And we've said since 2023, escalation left unchecked in the region will lead to not only regional spillover, but a total regional war that will engulf all of us. And this is exactly what we are in right now.
So you told Washington about the potential economic consequences.
You don't have to take my word for it.
But they ignored you.
You go.
How do you feel about that?
You go and look at the statements of the Prime Minister throughout dealing with the escalation since 23. We're in close contact with the U.S. administration over this. They took the decision to go to war according to parameters that they think are related to regional security. This is their assessments. We're working very closely with them on how to de-escalate and to find a way out of this crisis and to stop the attacks on our countries. But I won't comment on the U.S. administration decision. This is something to be discussed with them.
Are you disappointed that, despite your warnings,
you're using very emotional language, and that's not my mandate here. Thank you.
Dr. Ansari, one of the
One of the justifications that Iran has given for striking Qatar is the presence of U.S. bases here. Do you feel, based on Qatar's experience in this war, that having a U.S. base here makes this country more safe or less safe? And does this cause you at all to reconsider whether it's wise to have American forces based here?
We believe that this crisis, amongst many others in the past, have proved the importance of our security partnerships around the world, including the very strategic alliance with the United States, especially when it comes to security. This is not only a deterrence, it has always been part and parcel to the regional security architecture of our region. If anything, I think post this escalation, there is a renewed need to increase our defense partnerships and strengthen our defense partnerships in a way that would guarantee that such attacks in the future would never happen.
Given that Iran has been striking Qatar, striking key energy infrastructure?
I mean, escalation, as we said, since 2023, escalation left unchecked will lead to results that will engulf all of us. This would go beyond any partnership in the region. Yeah.
There is a report suggesting that a deal being offered includes closing, quote, the largest US base in the region, which I guess would be al-Ansari. Has that been discussed at all?
No, and I don't think I can comment on ANSEM's initiated reports of such nature. يعطيكم العافية.